On June 30th, 2019 at 8:30 p.m, Mohammed Fizan Ayaz, who was known as Fizzy to friends and family, made his way to Unit 2 Denholm Business Centre, Halifax Road, Denholm, where he had been invited to chill out with Rahil Khan, Suleiman Khan and a few more of his friends. He was also asked by Rahil to bring cigarettes, drink and drugs, and so as he made his way there, he carried a bottle of Jack Daniels and Coke that he sporadically took sips from, concealing the cannabis he had brought along with him in his pocket. Denholm Business Centre, the location he had been invited to hang out at, was significant in the fact that it was the headquarters that Rahil Khan ran his illegal substance business from, as well as his current hidey hole from the prying eyes and long arm of the law. This was because Rahil was at the time in hiding after a warrant for his arrest was issued in relation to charges of conspiracy to possess a shotgun with intent to cause fear and violence. Arriving at the unit at 8:32 p.m, Ayaz was met by Rahil Khan, Junaid Hussain, Suleiman Khan and Robert Wainwright, amongst others, and the drugs and alcohol would then flow freely. Fizzy and the rest of the gang would each partake in drinking alcohol and smoking the Class C drugs, as well as sniffing Class A illegal substances. Under the guise of having a good time, the gang enjoyed the hedonism the drink and drugs brought, all the while chatting and enjoying the gathering. Suddenly, however, an argument erupted between Rahil Khan and Fizzy over a video that Khan had sent him of himself having sex that he believed he had watched and then deleted. Fizzy had apparently joked that he would post the video online and revealed that he still had the video on his phone, which enraged Khan, completely pushing him to the point of wanting to get revenge for the disrespect he now felt he had been shown by Mr. Ayaz. At this point, around 10:15 p.m, Fizzy decided that it was now time to leave the gathering and make his way home, with CCTV showing him leaving the unit and in what was obviously a drunken state moving down the adjoining corridor, looking unsteady on his feet, using the wall for support to keep himself upright. He makes his way outside, goes over to the window and then for some reason decides to re-enter the building. As he did so, Suleiman Khan, who entered the hallway from Unit 2, lunges towards Fizzy, punching him and knocking him to the floor. He was then grabbed by the men and bundled back into Unit 2, where he would be set about by the gang relentlessly. First of all, they made him remove his clothing, stripping him naked and humiliating him completely. Then the brutal beating began, with the men ruthlessly deciding to kick, punch and stamp on him with sheer disdain for the pain he was in, even going as far as to kick him in the groin repeatedly, all whilst they filmed the horrific scenes on their phones, posting the footage online to revel in their actions, with one section of the footage found showing Mohammed Ayaz begging to be allowed to die. Throughout the ordeal, Mr. Ayaz was choked unconscious, with footage showing Wainwright pouring water over him afterwards in a bid to bring him back around, and with Wainwright later going on to urinate on him as he lay bleeding on the cold hard floor. At one point, the gang decided that the humiliation and pain that Fizzy had endured had not yet been enough, and so, finding a glass bottle that had been left in the unit, they forced the neck of the bottle into his causing maximum levels of pain and humiliation. The beating went on for multiple hours, starting at approximately 10:15 p.m. and ending at approximately 2 p.m, when his bloodied, beaten and bruised body had finally given out, and due to the sheer volume of punishment he received, Mr. Ayaz had passed away. However, once the gang had finished doling out the punishment beating, instead of phoning the emergency services, they decided instead to wrap his body in a sheet, and Rahil Khan, Wainwright and Akash Rafiq then dragged his body outside, hoisting his limp torso into the back of an awaiting car and transporting him to Saffron Drive, Allerton in Bradford, where they left him naked and face down by the side of the road. In the early hours of the 1st of July 2019, several calls were made to emergency services describing the discovery of the body of a man, and upon emergency services arriving, they realised that nothing could be done, pronouncing Mr. Ayaz dead at 4:40 AM. Immediately the police sprang into action and launched an investigation into the death, and very quickly they discovered the sheer brutality of this horrendous crime. A post-mortem examination discovered that Fizzy had been subject to 70 separate injuries, with multiple blunt force impacts to the face and head, with deep bruising to his scalp, extensive bruising to his face, 2 black eyes, bruising to his ears, multiple lacerations on his face and mouth, and a large laceration to his forehead, caused by the sole of a shoe stamping upon him. There were also wounds across his body that had been caused by a knife or sharp pieces of glass repeatedly hitting his skin. They also found deep bruising to his testicles caused by repeatedly being kicked in the groin, as well as bruising to his from the bottle having been forced inside of him. The post-mortem also found that he had had a hard white molten plastic substance poured over his back and buttocks throughout the attack, and that Mr. Ayaz had succumbed to a bleed on the brain caused by excessive blows to his head. The gang, for the most part, were quickly tracked down and rounded up due to CCTV of the surrounding area identifying those involved. And very quickly, across a matter of days, most of the gang were in custody. However, some of the gang had managed to escape, with Akash Rafiq fleeing the country before police could capture him. During the trial, the gang began to try and minimise their own actions in the murder, with most, if not all, trying hard to deflect the blame and create a narrative that they, for the most part, had very little to do with the pain and brutality inflicted upon Fizzy that night. However, the videos the gang had made during the heinous events that were subsequently found in the back garden of Raheel Khan's home, and the multiple accounts from each of the men who gave evidence at the trial, helped the jury to fully understand who the main culprits in the murder were and bring them to justice. On the 11th of March 2020, Raheel Khan, Robert Wainwright and Suleiman Khan were all jailed for life for the murder of Mohammed Fizan Ayaz, with Raheel Khan being given a minimum term of 30 years and Suleiman Khan and Robert Wainwright given a minimum term of 25 years behind bars. A number of fellow gang members were also found guilty of various crimes and were sentenced as follows. Shaib Shafiq was sentenced to 21 months in a Young Offenders Institute for driving a car in convoy to avoid police detection, and a 17-year-old youth who cannot be named for legal reasons was also convicted of assisting an offender. 2 other defendants, Junaid Hussain and Stephen Queenie, were both found not guilty on charges of murder and manslaughter. In a statement after the trial, Fizzy's family said, "His death has left a hole in our family, and to know his life was taken in such callous and brutal circumstances is even more upsetting." In the aftermath of the case, upon further investigation, police uncovered 5 further men and 2 further women who helped cover up the brutal murder of Mr. Ayaz. Safraz Ahmed was charged with assisting an offender to leave the country. Rafaq Ali and David Burnett were both charged with deleting CCTV footage, and Ihrab Chowdhury, Hassan Ali, Kawkab Khan and Komal Khurshid were all charged with helping clean the unit by painting or removing items. All 7 will be sentenced on May 9th of this year. At this time, as far as my research could ascertain, Akash Rafiq has still not been brought to justice and continues to evade police capture. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, you might enjoy the full video that you can find on your screen right now. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.